Let's just jump right into it. Today's title is the ADL Friend, Foe, or Comrade. Friend, foe, or comrade. Now, the ADL, like most of these organizations, um, claim to be for the rights of all people. But I've found that none of these organizations are good. None of them. They're horrible. And they're horrible because of the people that run the organizations. That's why, because they have another agenda. Um, they're not actually for the people. They're about ushering in a system, in my opinion, of globalism. That's the goal. And so the goal, most of these organizations that appear to be good, you can think about the NAACP, supposed to be good. The ADL, supposed to be good. Uh, I'm sure there's a lot of other organizations, but these organizations are not good at all. Um, I saw something the other day, and it was the ADL talking about America first. Um, and it says America first is a term that references the World War II era America First Committee and is used by extremists in anti Semitic, racist, and xenophobic ways. America First in conservative circles often refers to an ideology that was promoted by Donald Trump when he ran for office and served in office, which emphasized American nationalism, non-intervention, and anti-immigrant and anti-globalism beliefs. So we have a bit of a conundrum here. We have America First being what I believe is a positive term, and then the ADL saying that America First is um, an extremist, anti-Semitic, and racist and xenophobic term, or it's a term that's being used in those ways. Now, let's say I come up with a term, and my term is called salt of the earth. And then I create this term for a positive reason because I believe that it stirs up some vigor in humanity. It gets people to want to be better people. And then a group comes along and they like the term salt of the earth. And they take my term salt of the earth and they say, you know what? We're going to use this term salt of the earth to represent extremism, extreme whiteness. We're going to use this term to represent everything white, everything pure. We want to exclude everybody. We want to be racist. We want to be anti-Semitic. We want to be all of these horrible things, but we like that term. We're going to use that term. Now, imagine me, the person that created the term, actually having a life experience or life experiences that prompted me to make this term. Imagine that term being tied to my faith, being tied to my family, being tied to my culture, being tied to my upbringing. Imagine this term being used by a group of people who have, we can say, bad intentions. But now imagine my term being labeled not what I said it was, not what I intended it to be, and not what the people that even listen to me or follow me said the term was. But now the term has become what a small fringe group is using the term for. So now my term, my movement has been destroyed by a small fringe group of people just because another organization comes along and deems my term racist or anti-Semitic or xenophobic. Now imagine these organizations literally hiring people to do that. Imagine these organizations hiring these fringe groups to take these terms and turn them into weapons. And if folks are gonna say, "Well, Blanche, how you know that's happening, Blanche? You know that? How you know that's happening, Blanche? You don't know that. You don't know. I don't know. That's the problem. I don't know. And because I don't know, when you do things like this, you make people scratch their head. You make people wonder what's going on. you make people say, man, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. You mean to tell me that now America first is bad? Make America Great Again was turned into a weapon. Make America Great Again, they assigned intent to make America great again based on who was a part of Make America Great Again, i.e. white people, i.e. conservatives, i.e. Christians, i.e. patriots. It wasn't the rhetoric. It was not the rhetoric. It was who was involved in the movement. And now we have America First, and it's the same thing. Who's involved in, who says America First? Who says it? Christian, conservative, white, Republican, patriotic, whatever you want to say. That's who's mostly using the term. And the ADL, like all these other organizations, this is how they lose credibility because their intentions aren't good. Well, Blanche, why do you say that? I say that because think about all of these movements that we have and had. Think about the civil rights movement. Think about the trans movement, trans equality. Think about the LGBTQ movement. Think about all of these movements, and they're all bad. How is that possible? How is every movement that tells the world we are here to do something good, how do they all end up being trash? How are they all compromised? We can't keep saying, well, they meant well. No. How long is that going to continue? They meant well. They mean to do well. No, this is not meaning to do well. How are you letting friends, groups of people take over what something means? That's insanity. How are you assigning intent? How are you assigning intent to a term or phrase anyway? You're doing it based on who's using it. And you can say, well, that's the proof right there, Blanche, that we're just using, these people are quote unquote racist and bad, and they're using the phrase. But in context, are they using the phrase for what you're saying they're using it for? A person can be a horrible person and still want America to be first. A person could be everything bad that you want to name them and still want America to be first for the reason that it was intended to be first, not for some negative reason. I don't agree with assigning intent. I don't. This is going to be a problem. This is going to infringe upon free speech. Let me give you all an example. Anti-racist is code for anti-white. Anti-racist is code for anti-white is a white supremacist slogan used as a response to accusations of racism and to refocus attention on the putative victimhood of the white race. Look how that's phrased. On the bottom of this, it says slogans, code words, white supremacists, right wing, anti Semitism. This is wrong. There is an anti white agenda. That's not even a theory. There is an anti white agenda. Anti-racist is code for anti-white is a white supremacist slogan used as a response to accusations of racism and to refocus attention on the putative victimhood of the white race. Now, I don't believe that anybody's a victim. I don't. But if anybody in today's time wants to claim victimhood, it's white people. It's not even close. The things that white people can't say and do, and the things that other people can say and do is insane. White people over here, Grand Canyon, everybody else over here. So again, this is wrong because anti-racist, the term, when is it used? In what context is it used? We're talking about the term racism being used as a weapon. We're talking about people throwing around racism everywhere. What's racist today can expand to include more tomorrow. Or what wasn't racist today now is racist tomorrow. So at the end of the day, the problem is that these organizations and groups aren't giving human beings the credit for having critical thought. People are not dumb. Just because somebody says something on social media doesn't mean people are going to follow it. Just because somebody says something on social media doesn't mean people are going to believe it. It doesn't mean people endorse it. And at the end of the day, there is an anti-white agenda. So to not have the anti-white agenda as a part of the ADL shows their bias, because white people are being demonized. Even in cases where it's proven not to be any racism, even in cases where it's proven to be foul play, there's no parade or trumpets blaring or bullhorns being spoken into to say, you know what, we made a mistake. Everything isn't racist. We got to start sitting down and actually dissecting what's racist and what's not. The problem is that most of this stuff is emotionally based. It's not factually based. It's subjective. What somebody thinks is racist. You ask somebody black what's racist, they got a whole laundry list of stuff that's nonsense. You ask somebody Jewish what's anti-Semitic, they got a whole laundry list of nonsense. You ask somebody LGBTQ what's anti-LGBTQ, and they have a laundry list of stuff that's nonsense. And they could also have some valid points. But because they can also have valid points and nonsense, then you can't be the person that decides what's the nonsense and what's valid, because you're not going to be unbiased. None of these organizations that are created, Planned Parenthood, none of these organizations that are created are any good. How is that possible that all of these organizations are bad? All of them. All these organizations are bad. This is what the ADL said about the whites only community in Arkansas. Residents of Northeast Arkansas should be deeply concerned about a white supremacist group's attempts to develop 160 acres near Ravenden. The group allegedly plans to exclude Jews and non-white individuals from land ownership by limiting sales to individuals who are white Christians or pagans of European heritage. In addition, its founders have declared ambitions to expand and create whites-only enclaves in other locations. We believe this development not only revives discredited and reprehensible forms of segregation, it should also be illegal under the Arkansas Fair Housing Act, the Fair Housing Act of 1968, as well as other federal and state civil rights laws. We urge the Arkansas Fair Housing Commission, local elected officials, and law enforcement to act swiftly to ensure that Northeast Arkansas remains a welcoming and inclusive community, not a refuge for intolerance and exclusion. Lindsay Bach Friedman, Regional Director. Why is this problematic? To my mic. Can you all hear me? Okay. Mic went out. But my question is, you first people say that America's racist. And I'm going to get into this about white people being racist, about how much propaganda is out there that the ADL doesn't address. Now, I don't know why my mic keeps going out. It's weird. But imagine white people being demonized for leaving a community, white flight. Imagine white people being demonized for moving back into a community, gentrification. Then imagine white people being demonized for saying we're going to move out to the sticks, to the country, and live by ourselves. So again, this is very problematic because on the TV screen, on social media, it's put out there that white people are the worst people on the planet. But then when they decide to leave everybody's presence, now all of a sudden they're racist. It has been very problematic for white people to be around other groups or races of people in this country. It's been problematic. We see this every day. We see that when white people are in close proximity with people that are not white, they either have to play ball or get put out the game. Because anytime a white person has an opinion that is not mainstream or widely accepted, then they are labeled as racist and a bunch of negative other terms. You all wouldn't believe the stuff they say about white people in these city council meetings. Like, it's insane. So for the ADL to call these people racist, but not call any of the anti-white stuff that we see on media, mainstream media, and social media every day is problematic. The ADL is biased. Very biased. Hate slogans. It's okay to be white. Did you know the ADL trains every new FBI agent on their role as protectors of the American people and the Constitution? Bombshell. ADL caught falsifying statistics to frame white Americans. It makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. Busted inside the FBI leadership effort to vilify white Americans by padding domestic terrorism stats. We already know this. So the ADL itself is compromised. Now imagine the ADL trying to demonize an all-white community, telling you that America First is a racist, anti-Semitic term. But when I go to the ADL's board of directors, their board of directors looks like the all-white town in Arkansas. Their board of directors looks like the all-white town in Arkansas. Why is the board of directors not more diverse at the ADL? Why does the board of directors not look diverse at the ADL? We're all the people of color. I see one Asian. Where the people of color? Where the Hispanics? Where the black folks? Oh, okay. Okay. What's good for the goose isn't good for the gander. But what's good for the goose is good for the slander. Leadership and staff. Where is the diversity? The ADL is saying y'all need to be careful and be aware of this all-white town in Arkansas. They want 160 acres. Be aware, be afraid. They're dangerous. We need the state and local law enforcement to step in. But look at their leadership and staff. Where's the color? Where's the diversity? Where's the inclusion? Where's the equity? all these organizations are compromised because the goal of the organizations isn't to do what they say. Their goal is to usher in globalism. Their goal is to get rid of people's rights. That's their goal. Their goal is to virtue signal you into oblivion. And they're going to try to keep luring you in saying, oh, we mean well. We meant well. How is it that all these organizations mean well, but the end result is destruction? How is that all these organizations that are supposed to be looking out for humanity always end up tearing down America? This is not coincidence, people. The road to hell was paved with good intentions. Good intentions only mean something when the outcome is good. Good intentions, good. Everybody means well. We can take the worst people in history and say they meant well. We can say the worst people in history meant well for their people. It doesn't really mean anything if you're stepping on people to do it. Yes, the ADL has power. And yes, the ADL can sway people's public opinion. Yes, they can. Yes, the ADL can cause you to lose sponsorship. Yes, they can. Yes, the ADL has the power to ruin your life. Yes, they can.
So literally, we opened a center in Silicon Valley back in 2017. And the woman who runs it, she's an ex-Facebook executive. I have software engineers and data scientists working at ADL. We're monitoring all this stuff. And we're working with all the platforms, by the way, Google and YouTube and Meta and Twitter and Reddit and Steam and Amazon, all these companies. From like Apple to Zoom, we work with all of them, okay? That's relevant because we've been working with Twitter now since it was founded. We worked with the old regime, working with the new regime.
So again, we saw firsthand what happens when these organizations work with these social media companies.
Accept Christ, and then we didn't accept Muhammad.
Work with these social media companies. We all know what happens. We all know what happens when they work with these social media companies and they decide what's racist, and they decide what's anti-Semitic, and they decide what's wrong and what's right, what's transphobic, what's anti-LGBTQ, what's anti-Black. They decide it. The same compromised group decides what's bad for society. Not the people, but these organizations do. The NAACP said it's racist. NAACP compromised. Remember when the NAACP went out there and started fighting on the behalf of these major soda companies, these major beverage drink companies, to say that it was racist, to say that these people on welfare couldn't spend their welfare, federal government money, taxpayer money on sweet drinks, carbonated drinks, soda, high fructose corn syrup. Remember they got the corporations got to the NAACP, it's the free market, right? But they went to them and said, we need y'all to do a PR campaign for us. Tell everybody it's racism as to why folks don't want these welfare recipients to be able to purchase sodas and sweets and snacks. These organizations are compromised. They've been compromised. In fact, I'm going to go out on a limb and say the genesis of these organizations was never good. How do we know this? Because the results of the organization have always been bad. None of it's been good. Look at this. Abolish the white race. Look at all of these articles. Holocaust against white people, professor behind white genocide tweets, university. Like look at it. Rutgers lecturer tweeted about shooting white people. Rutgers professor on white people. We got to take these Nope, just Johnny Ayres Williams, Trinity College, whiteness is terrorism. Why is the ADL? Why doesn't the ADL have an entire section for anti-whiteism? Why doesn't the ADL have an entire section for anti-whiteism? A whole separate category. Oh, okay. University works to reduce. Look at this. Let me go back. University works to reduce number of white people on campus. CalPOT 2011. When is it okay to kill whites? University of Georgia. White people might have to die to be violated code of conduct. Look at this. White supremacy causes black citizens to. White supremacy causes black citizens to commit anti-Asian hate crimes. Colorado professor claims. Again, we can do this all day. Americans who practice yoga contribute to white supremacy, claims Michigan State University professor. Where is the ADL? University of Kansas offers every white male studies classes. Baltimore professor, white people need to personally give all their money back to black people. Where's the ADL? University of South Carolina bans whites from applying for jobs. Where is the ADL? Professor, white people are conditioned to commit mass murder. Where is the ADL? Nowhere to be found. Rutgers clears professor who said he hates white people. Where is the ADL? College professor believing in hard work is white ideology. And listen, I cover this stuff on my page all the time, this anti-whiteism. But it's just funny to me that America first is now a negative term. It's now a negative term. Same thing happened with Christ is King. So imagine Christ is King being something that was used for all these years, hundreds of years, maybe even thousands of years, I don't know. Imagine a term being used, and because a fringe group of people used the term, and let's say they did use it to be anti-Semitic, how did that take over the whole term? And how do you determine when it's anti-Semitic and when it's not? How do you know? You don't know. So because you don't know, because you don't know the nuance when people are communicating, because you can't really tell, you got demonized the whole term. College professor, all white people should off themselves. Where's the ADL? College professor wanted white genocide for Christmas. Surviving whiteness and white people. This is college campuses. This is mainstream media. It is. Remember, a couple of years ago, they got on TV and they said the greatest threat to America was the evangelical Christian white male. Columbia hosts Deconstructing Whiteness workshop, breaking through a bastion of whiteness, facing whiteness. The space for uprooting whiteness group. Like this is where all of the future generations of America are going to these colleges. So we literally have the future of literal America being programmed to hate white people. Where is the ADL? The space for uprooting whiteness group. Students exploring whiteness. Again, the Dean's Unlearning Whiteness Research Award, anti-racism plan, whiteness. Controversy erupts after Ivy League universities exclude white people from new class. And not to mention, this is going on in regular schools as well. Forget college, high schools, middle schools, junior high schools, elementary schools, this is going on as well. So the entire education system that is teaching these young minds, these entire education population is being poisoned to hate white people. And the ADL doesn't even have a category for anti-whiteism. I wonder why. Towson University presentation, white people are a plague. Dear white people, signs that college insists black people can't be racist, again, that's racist. The term black people can't be racist should be a term the ADL highlights, because that should be considered racist. Black people can't be racist is actually a racist term, and they should be highlighted, but it won't be. Dismantle whiteness mural installed at USC. Your DNA, this is Daily Mail right here. Your DNA is an abomination. Texas State University paper slam for racist article by author who said they hate white people. See the sign, white is over. Professor, white supremacist patriarchy responsible for Vegas shooting. Again, where's the ADL? Educator slam for suggesting abolishment of whiteness and white people. And keep in mind, this stuff is in the mainstream media as well. They get on TV and say this stuff as well, with no kind of, with no consequence. Not even the ADL come out and say, you know what, that's a little extreme, that's a little nothing. But the ADL can tell you that America First is racist and anti-Semitic, and it's xenophobic.
Stronger than so-called white privilege. In 2025, so-called black privilege is way stronger than so-called white privilege. Let me explain. See, black Americans are the only people I know in this country, the U.S., that can literally walk up to anybody and call that person the N-word, and nothing happens to that person. Nothing happens to that so-called black American for saying the N-word. No consequences, no punishment, zero. No one else can do that besides the black American, literally. Black Americans are the only people I know that can broadcast to the entire world that their business is black owned. And no one has a problem with that. No consequences, no punishment, nothing happens to that so-called black American for just broadcasting my business is black owned. No one else can do that besides the black American, literally.
Where is the ADL? Black people running around saying that we only want black spaces, saying that this is a black-owned business, calling everybody the N-word. ADL is nowhere in sight. The ADL is nowhere in sight.
Black Americans are the only people I know that are receiving grants or some type of funding just for being so-called black. Yes, you receive free grants and some type of funding, maybe for your education or maybe to start a small business, just for being black. No other so-called race has that privilege but black Americans, just for being so-called black. Black Americans are the only people I know that can scream to the top of their lungs, black power, I'm black and I'm proud, you know, Black Lives Matter. No one will have a problem with them saying this. No one. No punishment, no consequences for saying such a thing. No other so-called race can do that but the black American.
Again, how is black power not a hate term? How is black only not a hate term? How is all black everything not a hate term? Issa Rae at the awards one time said, one of these award shows, she said, I'm rooting for everybody black. If a white person said, I'm rooting for everybody white, it'd be a problem. The ADL would step in and condemn them. But Issa Rae didn't get condemned, even though she had a show that perpetuated every black stereotype imaginable. Even though Issa Rae had a show in Hollywood that portrayed every black stereotype imaginable.
Black power, Black Lives Matter, I'm black and I'm proud. Black Americans are the only people I know that can say, I love to be with my people, my culture. I love my people. No other so-called race can say or do such a thing because you'll call them a racist. But black Americans can do that freely, literally. Let's not even talk about Section 8. Let's not talk about food stamps. Let's not talk about families being on food stamps or Section 8 for generations upon generations. This is black privilege. We can do whatever the hell we want and no one else can. But for some reason, for some stupid reason, people think white privilege is a way stronger thing than black privilege in 2025. You are delusional.
Very well said, brother. Very well said. And I'm going to end on that note. Thank you.